brought up with regard to insurance. I believe that the record will reflect that I've stated about what was going on with insurance at every single board meeting, from the very beginning. I've also met with both the police union leadership along with the police. I've met with the firefighters union and leadership along with members of their team. And we talked about what was happening with employees' insurance not being paid yet. The payments are being made. The payments are coming out of their checks, but they're not covering their insurance. And I've said that vehemently at every board meeting because of the urgency, because these are public employees who are not getting what they're entitled to as public employees. So part of what I am required to do is to be able to negotiate in good faith. That means that every agreement that I enter into or every plan that we put on the table has to be supported by the board. My concern was the urgency of needing to get this done, and the fact that if you don't have a unified board pulling in the same direction, it makes it harder for me to enter into agreements on behalf of the village. Now, we had a number of meetings with these individuals where we did make sure that initial payments started to get made. The issue is we have to institutionalize these processes so that it's not the lucky time where the payments get made and then 2 months down the line, the payments are missing again. And I also had that conversation with your husband and expressed to him some of the challenges of making sure that these are institutionalized practices that carry on regardless of who's a trustee or who's a village manager. That process, again, I initiated that process, had every intention of continuing that process, and offered to continue it for the sake of the village. But in the absence of a desire to have an actual transition process, it's unclear where that stands. So I just want to make sure that if you can rewatch the videos and check the minutes, that this issue has been brought before the board by myself on several occasions, also documented in written form. So I wanted you to know that as well. As to the website, I have had meetings with the current IT director to revamp the website. I've seen the website. My initial take was it definitely needed to be upgraded. So the conversation that we had in our one-on-one departmental meeting was for him to solicit bids for a designer to actually do a whole-scale redesign of the website. We're not just talking about the information that definitely needs to be upgraded with regard to the photos and bios of the trustees. It was also making sure that we have updated GIS software to allow for other developers and folks interested in economic development to be able to go to the website as a portal and identify parcels of land that may be available, to get information for engineers through the website. It has to be very functional. And so we had that conversation, and his responsibility is to go back and get bids for the lowest price but highest quality designer that can redesign the website. And so again, this was something that I initiated in my tenure, and the IT director is actually working on getting those bids. So I'm hoping that moving forward, they'll be able to select the appropriate designer and move forward with the overhaul that needs to be done on the website.
And to add to that also, Mr. Watson, the engineers right here, right here in the audience, and from Robinson Engineers, they did give us, Mr. Lana and I sat there, we made a design for the GIS system, as she was saying, so everyone would be able to focus on, zoom into University Park, see what we had. It was wetland, good land, no land. And that was, excuse me, can you tell us how many years ago was that? 2 or 3 years ago? For the GIS?
About 2 years ago. It's still functional.
Yeah.
It's still functional. It just be woven into the upgraded system. But just click on, maybe you want to know the broken verbiage from existing enterprise non-professional service, what the meanings of economic development is, what incentives are available for developers. It's all there. We're just waiting for your system to support.
Precisely.
And it needs, all needs to be loaded.
And the last piece to the FEIN log, there is an FEIN log for the Village of University Park. Again, this is another issue that the record will reflect. I brought up to this board in written and verbal format. This is because of misuse of motor fuel tax dollars from the state, amongst other issues. So there is a hold in the comptroller's office. This has been something that was brought to my attention early on, and I have worked with the engineers who manage a lot of the IDOT projects and the infrastructure projects, as well as engaging with the state to find out what those holds, why those holds exist. The biggest single factor right now is because the village cannot account for MTF dollars that were brought in. This is a part of the overall budgeting issues with commingling of funds and not having appropriate sub-accounts to where you can clearly identify what funds are coming in from where and how they should be spent. That's one issue. There are also some other issues with funds that have come in the past that led to the FEIN lock. And so because of that, a lot of the infrastructure projects that the village has either initiated or maybe underway have been jeopardized. But that's another issue that we're working with the comptroller to make sure that we address.
Mrs. Lawson, how you doing? We've been knowing each other for years, right?
Yes,
You know, you've had my number for so many years.
I do. I must admit, I do have your number.
You can call me at any point in time, and all of your points are valid, and we appreciate each and every time a person comes up here and expresses their concern about the village. So it's indeed an honor to be up here. It took me 3 tries, so I'm finally here. So I am open, and we welcome, because there's a whole slew of individuals, constituents that have contacted me via my phone number, via text, the whole 9 yards. So feel free to call me at any time. You and your husband has been a friend of mine for many years, so
Thank you, and thank you for your service to our village.
appreciate it.
So, and again, any of us are open. You have my number, Ms. Lawson. Anybody that calls me, everybody knows I respond. So, and I thank you for coming here and actually asking a question rather than being a CDK coward behind keys, you know, because to say it, hear it, understand it, and get the clarification of it and the truth. And I appreciate that, and I hope that we answered your questions and clarified that as well.
Mayor.
I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry.
Ms. Lawson, I'd like to say to you too, you also have my number, and I will talk to you, anything that you need to know, I can just give you a call.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Payton?
Yeah, Ms. Williams,
Yes.
do you recall what the cost of that GIS system is going to be to the village? There's a number that stuck in my head, and the reason why we didn't bring it on at that time was like $7,000 or $8,000 a month to incorporate it. Started off, we had one with the proposal from the South Suburban Mayors and Managers, who had also people that were working on a GIS system.
What we did was a one-time, the maintenance of it is something else. I'm not sure what those costs are. I can't even say. But I know that what we did for the initial load, whatever those costs were, I can't say how much that was, but it was a one-time fee for what we did.
Right.
And to incorporate it. Now, updating would be something that staff could do, or something that we could have done, I'm sure, as new parcels became available in your economic development realm. But once you move forward with economic development, that would probably fall in the realm of that economic development.
Yes, because at the time, the board did a kind of cost-benefit analysis, and just based on where we were financially and what the real benefits and use of the system would be, at that time, we did not feel that it was worth it, since the information could be obtained by anybody that was looking at development in other ways. Secondly, and I'd just like to comment on the motor tax fuel thing. This is nothing new. We've been discussing this issue with the motor tax fuel thing for quite some time, and it has nothing to do with the sub-accounts. What it has to do is with our TIFs, in part, because some of that money was used for purposes that did not relate to what were allowable expenses for the motor fuel tax, and they related in some cases to the TIFs, and they were not valid, they were not documented. And so that's part of what I believe IRH Developments is working on, is getting that understood and corrected. You asked the question, Ms. Lawson, about the $20,000. I heard that also. I believe our finance department was requested to cut a check for $20,000. And fortunately, the checks and balances in the village prevented that from happening. Because they were also requested to cut a check for $2.5 million to Blue Links as a TIF reimbursement. And fortunately, the finance department refused to do that as well. Since there was no documentation, it is the same problem that got us where we are right now. And right now, IRH Developments is doing a forensic audit of the TIF to even see if the expenses that a number of these companies are asking for are even in compliance with state law in terms of their deductibility. So even tonight, there are things on our agenda for bills payable for 3 TIF payments in the millions of dollars, one of which is Blue Links. One of which is also from TIF 5, which there's a court injunction on. So what I'm saying to you is that shouldn't even be on here. If the board continue to approve these things, we're doing exactly the same thing that caused this problem before. So the problem has not been remedied at this point, as far as I'm concerned. Until we hear from IRH Developments and their complete analysis of what the forensic audit brings on these TIFs, I'm personally not going to approve a dime until that's done.
And
So that's why
to
19
piggyback on him, it was brought to me to sign these checks, and I refused. I said, I'm not signing any checks until it comes to the board for approval. And I was told it's an emergency, Mary, you need to sign them. I said, no. That's why you see June 20th on them, you'll see June 20th and all. I'm not going to do that.
So who's requesting this?
Finance asked me to do that.
So,
I mean, the checks and
That's
balances.
It's just the opposite.
Excuse me, I can speak for myself. I was asked to sign them from finance.
So to clarify the process, Blue Links and IRH is here if they're doing a presentation. The Blue Links account, we were directed, was not going to be examined as part of the suite of cases or TIF accounts that IRH was looking at. This is what I was informed by their attorney. The Blue Links account the RDA had to be examined. We were told that they were not going to examine that, so we had to make a determination. The process is to make sure that we review the redevelopment agreement, to make sure that there's nothing on our end that is preventing us from making any payments. This includes looking at unjustified payments, payments that should not have been made, if they had documentation that was missing. We have to do that kind of analysis. If, in fact, there are no blocks as to why we should make a payment, then the village has to make a payment. Now, the request was not made for a check to be cut and paid. It has to go through the process. If there are no inhibitions to the $2.5 million plus that Blue Links claims that they are owed, then it goes to the board for approval, which is why it is included in the bills payable. Unless they can identify, we can specifically identify that this payment is unjustified, we will be held liable if the payment is actually owed to Blue Links. So the other accounts are being looked at by IRH, but that one in particular, their attorneys informed us in written form via email that they were actually not going to review the Blue Links account in particular.
Yes, Roger, could you comment on that, please?
He's raising his hand. I can acknowledge you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Just for the sake of clarity, Blue Links and all TIF accounts are being examined by James Roach and Associates, every last one of them. The documentation submitted by Blue Links for repayment appears to be a request for reimbursement of real estate taxes, which to the best of my knowledge is not included as a reimbursable expense under the TIF statute. Our attorneys assure us that they will be through reviewing each one of the TIF agreements within 45 days. Let's say now it's about 35 days. They'll be through with those, and they will consult with your attorneys and make a recommendation or provide a legal opinion as to whether or not those agreements comport to state law. So I just wanted to clear that up. So Blue Links, and in fact, in our monthly report, we discussed Blue Links' request for payment of somewhere around $2.5 million that they told me they were owed. So, for the sake of clarity, they have presented no documentation to support that, as far as I know.
And, Mr. At this point, do you not have someone working in our finance department with these right now?
Ma'am, we have 2 CPAs working with your staff to update your ledgers. That's what they're working on right now. We'll have a 3rd accountant there on the 14th. And what they're trying to do is to get your ledgers updated so that fund balance can operate as intended. And that agreement, I think, Manager Mtg spoke with Sylvia, and they worked out an agreement with our staff as to what they're to do. And right now, they're trying to reconcile your balance for 2016, so they'll be able to close it out and update your get your fund balance accounts updated so they can be used as intended. That's taking place now.
I met him last.
Yeah, that was John. He was our senior accountant. There are 2 more working with your folks to get that accomplished.
Yes. Trustee Wilson?
For my clarity, can you explain what IRH is actually working on? Because you guys actually came to University Park last August 2016, and to date, the board as a whole have not received any reports. So I'm not sure, because I thought you guys were reconciling bank accounts from last...
Bank accounts were reconciled some time ago.
So
And
they're
those
done?
reports were turned over to the Board of Trustees. And I have submitted a monthly report on our activity each month, including for the month of July. I submitted that to the mayor and to the village clerk for distribution to the Board of Trustees.
Okay, thank you.
I have a copy of it here, if you're interested.
I am interested. I do remember Ms. Holloway at one board meeting saying that she would submit that one report from reconciling all the bank accounts. She would submit it to village manager at the time, Townsend, and then she would distribute it as necessary. I have not received that, so is there any way the board can receive that report?
Yes, ma'am, but I do believe that when we submitted that report, it went to all the trustees, and I think that Ms. Townsend told you on that date at the board meeting that she had put it in your inbox, but that's not a problem for me to provide you with another copy.
I appreciate it.
Oh, that's right.
And I'll look for the email that shows that it was sent to me.
All right. Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
can I just, Ms. Lawson, I'm happy to tell you after 4 years, Pine Lake, as of last week, has full running water. So hopefully we'll have those bathrooms open next year. I'm also happy to tell you that Craig Park now has full running water. Those 2 bathrooms have been restored, so they will be ready for next year also. My next attempt is Palmer Park. The water is ready to go, new pipes. We just have a roof issue. So that's why we're not opening up the building. But the 2 parks, the water has been restored.
So the water fountains are operating?
Yes, ma'am. At Pine Lake and Craig, everything is all set. We've just not opened up those bathrooms.
Well, you get a gold star.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm still leaving a little bit confused because if there are checks and balances in place, you've given me 2 different, Trustee Payton said one thing, Dr. Mtg said another thing, the mayor said another thing. So where do you come together? If there are checks and balances, let me share with you what I understand to be a checks and balances. If there is a payment to be made, no one can just come to the finance person and say, cut this check. That there has to be a process for that to happen. And no one can say, well, I can't cut that check. Well, the board won't mind, just cut the check. That doesn't sound like check and balance to me.
And that's not what's happening.
I would like to, I'm sorry.
That's not what's happening.
I would like to just briefly read an email that I sent to the law firm that IRA just retained, that was sent to both Samantha and James, who I think is the head of that law firm. It was my understanding that your firm is in the process of reviewing TIF agreements. Am I to conclude that since you forwarded Mr. Howard's email, this is a representative of Blue Links, regarding payments, that review of the TIF agreement is complete and all is found to be in compliance? Mr. Howard has provided you with all documentation relevant to the TIF reimbursement process. I just want to make sure that you are confirming that the TIF review pertinent to Blue Links is complete before we proceed. Once we receive confirmation, and this is, I'm referring to the finance clerk, we can then move forward with the process. Please advise. In response to this, both Samantha and James said, yes, that is correct, as well as the review of the fund balances, and there are a couple of other things in that email. So before the process could even move forward, I did my due diligence to make sure that I found out from them if they had actually completed the review of all of the documents relevant to that TIF. That would state that if there were any problems with the village moving forward with the process, to make sure that they are reimbursed. That was what I did at the outset. And from that point, then it goes through the process of getting board approval ultimately at the board meeting, which is why it's on bills payable. So that's a documented email I can share with you. I can also forward it to IRH, because this is from the law firm that was reviewed.
Well, I just spoke with them last week. They were in my office. I spoke with them about Blue specifically, and they assured me that they have made an initial review of all the TIF accounts. I asked for their written reports, and they told me that they would have them all done within 45 days, and that their initial reading of the agreement was that they don't comport with state law. That's what I can tell you.
Okay, transparency, transparency, transparency. As far as I'm concerned individually, and this is just how I feel, that the residents are not getting the transparency that we've been promised. I'd really like to see that happen.
Well, we're in the process, Ms. Lawson.
Okay,
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Keep coming.
Who's the finance director? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Shout out. Who's the finance director? Or is
We
there
don't
one?
have a finance director right now.
So I think that's a problem.
Yeah. Okay. Can I call the next person on the list, please, first? Okay. Ms. Carrie Boykin.
Did you see the board with that document?
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Okay, so I am thoroughly disappointed in the Board of Trustees not coming to some agreement with Dr. Ennie. Dr. Ennie, thank you so much for your level of professionalism that we have had an opportunity to have you serve as our village manager. The first and only report that you submitted that was available to the public was so informative. It had so much in there, and you did a lot of work in the short period of time that you were here. Oh, yes, indeed. We did all that for free, right? Yeah, okay. Dr. Enya, on behalf of Michael Shammy, President and CEO of Avatar Corporation, Mayor Covington, I have letters that I would like to distribute to the board, if that's okay.
Yes, we can approach the board. Thank you, Brett. And this is from
President and CEO of
CEO.
Avatar Corporation, University Park Industrial Park.
Okay.
Trustee Brown.
Um,
Trustee Payton.
Thank you.
Just for transparency,
Yes.
this letter is from the CEO of Avatar.
The CEO of Avatar. Avatar is going to be celebrating 35 years in business. We're a manufacturer and supplier of ingredients for food, pharmaceutical, and cosmetics industries. We've been in University Park Industrial Park since 1998. We have employed numerous University Park residents, including myself. And Mr. Shammy has been a supporter of University Park, big supporter, big.
All right, so you are reading it, or you want us to just read it?
I want you to read it. I don't mind reading it if you want, you read it to
I
the
don't
public.
care. I don't care. And then that's the last one, because we have our 30-minute one. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I gave you all the copies. The mayor, I emailed the mayor a copy earlier today, so she has a copy.
Well, the mayor has to know.
Oh, yes.
Okay, I'll get it.
Okay. Dear Mayor Covington, I will not be attending the regular board meeting this evening because I've learned that the village intends to terminate its engagement of Amara Enya. The purpose of my speaking tonight was to point out that the village is in dire need of professional management, and that I believe on balance, Dr. Enya is capable and qualified to guide the village back to a position of good fiscal posture. I am personally concerned that the village is operating within the zone of insolvency, and absent serious and immediate action, the village could very well become insolvent. Avatar Corporation is committed to this village, and I am asking that you retain Amara Enya until you are able to engage a qualified replacement. I will make myself available to you and the board to help the village regain a solid financial position it once enjoyed. Best regards, Michael L. Shammy, President and CEO, Avatar Corporation.
Madam Mayor, now, Mr. Speaker.
I was blinded by all that applause.
Ms. Boykin.
And thank you.
Ms. Boykin, just to address, so that you know, I was one of the trustees that voted for her to come. Ms. Boykin? Okay. Okay, I just want to address it. I was one of the trustees that indeed voted for her to be our village manager. Unfortunately, again, in the original contract, she was only to be here temporarily, and actually that period is almost up anyway. But I also was one of those trustees that tried to get her paid. Unfortunately, there was a discretion in the amount of money she should receive. I explained it last board meeting, I won't rehash on it, but no one is saying that Dr. Enya is a bad person or is not competent for the village. It's just at this time, as her time is almost up and we have followed the plan was to come in, stabilize the village with a new village manager and move forward. And that's what we did. And that's what we're going to continue to do, because even a person that comes after her, indeed, Avatar will receive a competent village manager to move this village forward as long as I'm trustee of the village at University Park. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. The action items are, we only had 30 minutes. If you'd like to submit them, I'm sorry, we can't take any more because we have something on the books that we have 30 minutes, and we're just trying to pass that. If you'd like to write them, and we'll respond back. Okay, later time. Thank you. Unfinished business. Third reading of ordinance of the Village of University Park, Cook County adopting the annual budget for the fiscal year commencing May 1st, 2017, ending in April 30th, 2018. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by trustee Oscar Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Brooks. Question?
Yeah, I was looking through revenues. Where's delineated for alcohol taxes and tobacco taxes in our revenue statement?
Mike? Who's the action? That's Mr. This is the budget that was prepared from the old nothing's really been modified or changed. It's the third reading of it.
Mayor,
So can you, yes, sir?
I've got some issues.
Okay. Well, first of all, let's get that answer for Mr. Rogers. Could you answer that, or the question for the trustee?
What is alcohol and tobacco related taxes? Where is that on the revenue sheet? I ain't seen it addressed. What is it? Alcohol and tobacco taxes in regards to revenues?
It's not in your, what are you saying that it's not in your?
I didn't see it.
These numbers here are rolled over from last year.
Right.
That's all they are. They just
Same
roll over
thing
numbers
from last year.
from last year. This document needs to be amended tremendously. Tremendously. It needs to be amended. So all this is just rolled over numbers.
Okay, thank
There's
you.
really nothing.
Yeah, and with respect to the taxes, it's not only the taxes that need a second look, but it's also your obligations that are not listed in the budget.
And understand that this is a working document which can be modified. It's not written in stone. We can always come back to this budget and modify it. Trustee Payton?
Yes, Mayor, and that's precisely it. It's time that we stop passing budgets that are meaningless. We had a consultant from IRH that attended the last Finance Committee meeting, and he aptly described our budget as crap, and it is crap. There are some